Sam Altman is easy to reduce to one word: ChatGPT. That shortcut hides the more interesting story. Long before the world knew the product, he had already been a shy computer child, a teenager who spoke publicly when silence would have been safer, a Stanford dropout, a founder whose first company never became a great hit, an investor who learned to judge people quickly, and a leader whose quiet voice often carried enormous demands. His life contains a striking contradiction. He speaks about abundance, progress, longer lives, clean energy, and machines that may help solve difficult problems. At the same time, he stores emergency supplies, worries about social collapse, studies risks that sound like science fiction, and has built a career in organizations where trust has repeatedly become a central question. This is a portrait of Sam Altman, rather than a technical history of artificial intelligence. The next 100 facts follow the person, his family, sexuality, friendships, failures, routines, politics, money, loyalties, conflicts, marriage, fatherhood, and the decisions that placed him near the center of a global technological race. 3 questions will quietly follow us. How did someone whose own startup was only a modest success become one of the strongest talent organizers in Silicon Valley? Why do some colleagues describe him as unusually loyal, while others say they struggled to trust him? And how has a man who spent years talking about the distant future changed now that the future includes his own young son? There will be no invented dialogue or secret thoughts. Disputed claims will remain disputed. Plans will be called plans, not achievements. The goal is neither worship nor attack. It is to see how the same qualities, confidence, speed, persuasion, ambition, and control, can create remarkable results while also creating tension around the person using them. The story will move through personal rooms as well as famous institutions. A childhood computer in Missouri, a school assembly, poker games near Stanford, the uncomfortable years of Looped, 10-minute founder interviews, political arguments, aircraft, racing cars, a private wedding, a hospital caring for a premature baby, and the 5-day struggle that nearly broke OpenAI. The technology matters because Altman chose it, funded it, organized it, and accepted public responsibility for it. But the machines will never become the main character. The main character is the person who kept making the projects larger. With that in mind, we can begin. Fact 1. Sam Altman became globally famous only after ChatGPT, but people in Silicon Valley had been studying his personality for years. The detail they often noticed first was the contrast between his manner and his ambition. He usually speaks softly, rather than performing excitement like many technology founders. He presents giant plans in an almost ordinary tone. He can describe a plan involving enormous amounts of money, energy, and computing power in the same tone someone might use to discuss a grocery list. That calm delivery can make him appear reassuring. It can also make his predictions sound more certain than they really are. His public style is not built around being the loudest person in the room. It is built around making a huge proposal feel practical. Instead of saying that an idea is impossible, he tends to break it into people, money, time, and equipment. The dream becomes a sequence of tasks. This ability helps explain his career. Altman is not known as the scientist who made one famous discovery. He is known as an organizer of people and resources. His central skill is convincing talented people that an enormous project is both urgent and achievable. That is the first important fact about him. The calmness is real, but it does not mean the ambition is small. In Altman's case, calmness is often the way ambition is delivered. Fact 2. Altman's first important company did not make him famous, and it did not become the kind of success young founders dream about. That failure is one of the most useful facts for understanding his later power. Looped survived for years, raised serious money, and eventually sold. Yet it never became a beloved mass-market product. Altman therefore entered the next stage of his career without the simple authority of a founder who had created a giant company from nothing. Instead, He became influential by learning how other founders worked. He watched which teams stayed together when a product failed, which people changed their minds when evidence changed, which leaders attracted unusually strong colleagues, and which ambitious stories were supported by real movement rather than confident talk. This made his career different from the familiar Silicon Valley legend. He did not become powerful because one perfect invention made every later decision look wise. He became powerful after a mixed first result, then built a reputation for recognizing promise in other people and connecting them to money, advice, employees, and one another. That background also explains attention that follows him. Supporters see a founder who learned from disappointment and became a gifted builder of institutions. Critics see someone whose reputation grew larger than the company he personally built. Both views begin with the same fact. Altman's rise was not a straight line from technical genius to obvious victory. It was a reinvention after an imperfect first act. Fact 3. Altman was born Samuel Harris Altman in Chicago on the 22nd of April, 1985. His family later moved to the St. Louis area in Missouri, where he spent most of his childhood. He was the oldest of 4 children. Being the oldest does not automatically create a leader, but relatives have described him as someone who wanted to direct activity from an early age. One of his brothers recalled a childhood attitude that could be summarized simply: Sam wanted to win, and he expected to be in charge. That description matches the adult Altman surprisingly well. He is drawn to situations with unclear rules, strong competition, and a chance to shape the structure itself. He did not simply join a software company, he started one. He did not remain one advisor among many at Y Combinator, he became its president. He did not only invest in artificial intelligence research, he became the public leader of the organization doing it. Still, childhood stories should not be treated as destiny. Many competitive children do not become powerful executives, and memories are often simplified after someone becomes famous. What the story does show is that the adult version of Altman did not appear suddenly with OpenAI. The wish to organize, compete, and direct was visible long before the world knew his name. Fact 4. Altman grew up in a family with professional careers, but not in the center of the technology industry. His mother worked as a dermatologist, and his father worked in real estate. St. Louis was far from the social world of Silicon Valley, where he would later build his career. This distance mattered. Altman has described himself as a serious science and computer enthusiast when he was young. He liked mathematics, science fiction, machines, and programming. In a place where those interests were not the center of everyday culture, a home computer could feel like a private doorway into another world. He also grew up as the eldest child in a close family. Later in life, even while writing extreme productivity advice, he repeatedly warned people not to sacrifice family and close friendships for work. He argued that ignoring the people closest to you is not only emotionally foolish, but can also make you less effective. That advice is notable because Altman is famous for intense work. Balance in his writing is not a perfect daily schedule. Close relationships are long-term protection against becoming consumed by work. The picture is more human than the common image of the isolated genius. Altman's life has always depended on networks: family, friends, co-founders, mentors, investors, researchers, and employees. Even his most personal advice begins with people rather than machines. Fact 5. Altman received an Apple Macintosh computer when he was about 8 years old. He has described that machine as one of the most important objects of his childhood. Modern devices are designed to hide their inner workings. The computer Altman received felt more open. A curious child could explore it, learn simple programming, make mistakes, and immediately see a result. He taught himself to code and spent time understanding what the machine could do. For Altman, programming offered a powerful experience. A person could imagine a small system and then build it. The distance between an idea and a working result was much shorter than in most parts of the physical world. A child could not easily build a bridge or a factory, but he could make software behave differently before dinner. This early experience helps explain his later attraction to technology. For him, computers are more than tools for efficiency. They are levers that allow a small group of people to create effects at a very large scale. The Macintosh did not turn him into the inventor of artificial intelligence. It gave him something more basic, the feeling that complex systems were not sacred objects. They could be opened, studied, changed, and rebuilt. Fact 6. Altman did not only use his childhood computer, he also took it apart. That detail is often included in short biographies because it sounds like the beginning of a familiar genius story. But taking apart a machine is different from successfully building one. A child can damage a computer out of curiosity. The useful part is the willingness to risk confusion in order to understand the object. Altman has carried that attitude into institutions. At Y Combinator, he questioned the usual structure of venture capital and tried to expand the number and type of companies the program could support. At OpenAI, he helped create an unusual organization controlled by a nonprofit while raising commercial capital through a separate business structure. In energy and basic income research, he has supported experiments that challenge normal assumptions about how systems must work. Not every redesign succeeds. Some become more complicated than the problem they were meant to solve. OpenAI's unusual governance later contributed to the crisis that removed him for several days. The childhood computer therefore offers a better lesson than a simple story about intelligence. Altman likes opening systems. He wants to see the parts, change the arrangement, and test whether the machine can do something larger. Sometimes that creates progress. Sometimes it creates new risks. Fact 7. Altman attended John Burroughs School, a private school in the St. Louis area. He was academically strong, interested in computers, and willing to challenge the social environment around him. As a teenager, he came out as gay. This happened at a time when public acceptance was lower than it is today, especially for a student who still had to see the same classmates every day. A major moment came after some students objected to a school event connected to sexuality. Altman addressed the school community and spoke directly about the consequences of intolerance. A former counselor later said that his action changed the atmosphere of the school and made other students feel freer to be themselves. This was not a business decision. There was no investor, product, or financial reward. It required a teenager to make a personal fact public and then use that moment to challenge people around him. Later, Altman would become skilled at speaking to rooms filled with executives and politicians. The high school event shows an earlier version of the same ability. He could remain physically calm while making a statement that changed the pressure in the room. It also complicates the idea that he cares only about technology. One of the earliest public acts associated with him was about dignity, identity, and the kind of community people are allowed to live in. Years later, he returned to the same school as a famous graduate and spoke to students in assembly. The visit created a striking circle. The teenager who had once used the assembly hall to speak about acceptance came back as the leader of a company shaping a worldwide debate. The school also honored him as an outstanding alumnus. Whatever changed in his public life, this remained one of the places where his confidence had first been tested in front of a room. Fact 8. Coming out during high school did not become the central subject of Altman's adult public identity. He has generally spoken about it without turning every interview into a personal campaign. That restraint can be misunderstood. It does not mean the experience was unimportant. He has said that computers helped him during childhood because online life gave him space to explore and connect while feeling different from many people around him. For a young person in the 1990s, the internet could provide access to information and communities that were difficult to find locally. It could reduce the feeling that the immediate environment was the entire world. This may help explain one part of Altman's optimism about technology. He has personally experienced a machine as more than a device. A computer can change what information is available, which people can find one another, and how trapped a person feels inside a local culture. That does not prove every new technology will improve society. Online systems can also create harassment, isolation, manipulation, and misinformation. Altman's own career would later place him at the center of those debates. But his early relationship with computers was emotional as well as technical. They offered agency. They allowed him to build, learn, and discover a larger world. This part of his story is important because it shows an early form of the behavior that later defined his career. He was willing to make a clear statement before he knew how every person would react. The subject was personal rather than commercial, and the risk was social rather than financial. He did not need a company title or a powerful network to take that step. The ability to act before certainty was already present. Fact 9. Altman graduated from high school in 2003 and entered Stanford University to study computer science. He has said that he arrived expecting to become a programmer. The technology industry was still recovering from the collapse of the dot-com boom. Startups did not have the glamorous image they would gain later. According to Altman, students sometimes reacted to startup ideas with amusement rather than admiration. Stanford gave him access to talented students, researchers, and a culture where unusual technical projects were possible. It also placed him close to the growing network of investors and founders in Northern California. He stayed for about 2 years. That period was long enough to build relationships and deepen his technical education, but not long enough to earn a degree. The dropout story is often presented as proof that university is unnecessary. Altman's own life gives a more complicated lesson. Stanford mattered even though he left. He met people, found co-founders, learned from the environment, and entered a network that made his first company possible. Leaving did not erase the value of attending. It meant that, at a particular moment, he believed the opportunity outside the classroom was more urgent than completing the normal path. Fact 10. One of Altman's most unusual lessons at Stanford came from poker. He played regularly in college and later said that poker and early-stage investing taught him a great deal about business. The connection is easy to see. In poker, a person makes decisions with incomplete information. A good result does not always prove a good decision, and a bad result does not always prove a mistake. You must estimate probability, observe behavior, control emotion, and decide how much to risk. Startups create the same problem on a larger scale. Founders do not know whether a market will appear, whether a competitor will move first, or whether a technology will work. Investors do not know which confident founder is seeing the future and which one is simply confident. Poker also teaches that every hand should not be played. A person must know when to stop, when to wait, and when a rare situation justifies a large bet. Altman's career is filled with such bets. Most small investments disappear from public memory. A few become enormous. His style depends on accepting many uncertain outcomes while concentrating heavily when his conviction becomes strong. The poker table did not give him perfect judgment. It gave him practice living with uncertainty without becoming unable to act. Poker also gave him a social education. A table can include brilliant players, reckless players, cautious players, and people who pretend to be one type while acting like another. Winning requires attention to the person as well as the cards. Altman later became known for evaluating founders quickly and for noticing determination, fear, confidence, and speed. Poker did not create that ability by itself, but it offered repeated practice in reading people when nobody had complete information. Fact 11. Altman left Stanford at about 19 to build a company called Looped. He has said that he did not enter college with a clear plan to become a founder. The company grew from a simple observation about mobile phones. People carried them almost everywhere, and the devices could know where they were. Altman imagined a service that would let friends share their locations with one another. Today, location sharing is built into many common applications. At the time, it was technically difficult. Smartphones were not yet normal. Mobile carriers controlled important information. Data connections were limited, and many users were uncomfortable with the idea of broadcasting location. Leaving Stanford was therefore not an obvious move toward a guaranteed success. It was a decision to pursue a product before the surrounding technology and social habits were fully ready. This pattern appears throughout Altman's life. He prefers to arrive early rather than wait for certainty. The advantage is that an early participant can help shape a field. The danger is that being early can look exactly like being wrong for many years. Looped would not become a giant company, but the decision to leave school placed Altman inside the first group of Y Combinator founders and changed the direction of his life. Fact 12. The earliest version of Looped was built through direct recruiting rather than a polished corporate process. Accounts of Altman's Stanford period describe him presenting the idea with unusual confidence and inviting other students to join. The service would use mobile location information so friends could see who was nearby. The pitch required people to believe in a future phone culture that did not yet exist. Most phones were not powerful pocket computers. Application stores were not mature. Constant location sharing sounded unnecessary to some people and disturbing to others. Altman's role was not only to write software. He had to make the future feel close enough that co-founders, investors, mobile carriers, and early users would act before the evidence was complete. This became his professional pattern. He learned to tell a story about where technology was going, recruit people who could build the missing parts, and keep the group moving while the market remained uncertain. The same talent can coordinate people brilliantly and attract criticism when the vision runs ahead of reality. Some colleagues in later years would question whether Altman always separated current achievement from future expectation clearly enough. Looped was his first long lesson in the power and danger of persuasive optimism. Fact 13. Looped entered the first summer group of Y Combinator in 2005. Y Combinator itself was new. Paul Graham, Jessica Livingston, Robert Morris, and Trevor Blackwell were testing a different way to support young startups. Instead of waiting for a company to look mature, they would invest a small amount very early, bring founders together, and help them move quickly. The first group was tiny. The funding was modest. Nobody knew that Y Combinator would later become one of the most influential institutions in technology. Altman, therefore, joined an experiment inside an experiment. Looped was testing location sharing, while Y Combinator was testing a new system for creating companies. The relationship with Paul Graham became especially important. Graham saw unusual ambition and determination in Altman, even though Looped never became a famous consumer success. Years later, he would choose Altman to lead Y Combinator. This is a useful reminder that careers are not always built from the obvious result. Looped's product did not dominate the world. Yet the company placed Altman inside a network, allowed other people to observe how he worked under pressure, and created the relationship that led to his next major role. Fact 14. Altman built Looped with several co-founders, including Nick Sevo. Altman and Sevo were also a couple for many years. Mixing a startup with a personal relationship can make every part of life more intense. Work disagreements do not remain at the office, and private stress can affect the company. The founders were young, the product was difficult, and the business required constant negotiation with large mobile carriers. Their relationship lasted through most of Looped's existence. Reports say they separated after the company was sold. This part of Altman's life is rarely included in stories that treat him only as a business machine. Looped was not simply his first corporate experiment. It occupied much of his 20s and was tied to a long personal partnership. The company taught him how difficult it is to keep people, money, technology, and timing aligned. The relationship also meant that the end of Looped was not only a financial transition. Several parts of his life changed together. Altman is now much more private about his home life. That privacy makes sense when we remember how closely his earliest company and earliest serious adult relationship were connected. The relationship between Altman and Sevo also reminds us that the first company was not built by a future celebrity working alone. It was built by young people who were learning engineering, fundraising, management, and adulthood at the same time. Their personal and professional lives overlapped for years. When the relationship ended, the company still had to operate. That kind of separation is difficult in any workplace, and especially difficult when the workplace began inside the relationship itself. Fact 15. Looped raised more than $30 million, worked with major mobile carriers, and survived for about 7 years. Yet it never became the huge consumer company its founders hoped to build. This makes Loopt difficult to label. It was not a total collapse. It created a real product, attracted investors, and was eventually purchased. But the sale price was close to the amount of capital the company had raised. It did not produce the kind of enormous return expected from the best venture-backed startups. Altman later spoke openly about the emotional difficulty of the company. A startup can remain alive for years while never becoming clearly successful. That condition is exhausting because there is no clean moment of victory or failure. He learned that effort alone does not create product demand. A founder can work extremely hard, hire intelligent people, and still discover that the market does not care enough. This is one reason his later advice focuses so strongly on choosing the right problem. Productivity in the wrong direction does not become valuable simply because it is intense. Loopt gave Altman credibility, money, and connections. It also gave him a failure that lasted long enough to become an education. Fact 16. In 2012, Green Dot agreed to buy Loopt for $43.4 million in cash, including money reserved to keep important employees during the transition. The number sounded large to the public. Inside venture capital, the result was more modest because Loopt had already raised a similar amount from investors. Altman did not pretend that the company had become the next great social network. Later descriptions of Loopt often treated it as a product that arrived before the market was ready and never found enough regular users. The sale gave Altman a chance to leave the role that had defined his adult life. He was still in his 20s, financially secure, and connected to many founders and investors. He could have started another mobile application immediately. Instead, he moved toward helping and investing in other founders. This decision revealed that his strongest interest was not limited to one product. He enjoyed identifying ambitious people, discussing strategy, and shaping many projects at once. The end of Loopt therefore created the beginning of Altman's broader influence. He stopped being responsible for one struggling company and began building a position from which he could affect hundreds of companies. The sale gave Altman money and credibility, but it did not make Loopt a legendary consumer company. The buyer was interested in technology, patents, employees, and possibilities that could fit a larger financial business. For Altman, the result was neither a clean triumph nor a total defeat. He had kept the company alive, returned money, and gained a network, but the original vision of changing how everyone used location had not become reality. That mixed ending shaped how he later spoke about product demand. Fact 17. After Loopt, Altman became a part-time partner at Y Combinator. The role reversed his position. He had once been the young founder waiting for advice and investment. Now new founders sat in front of him, trying to explain why their strange idea mattered. Altman became known for processing information quickly. Founders described conversations in which he identified the central weakness of an idea after only a few questions. This did not mean he was always correct. Fast judgment can miss important details. But in a program reviewing thousands of applications, speed was valuable. He also understood founder anxiety because he had lived through it. He knew what it felt like to raise money, negotiate with larger companies, worry about growth, and remain trapped between failure and success. This combination made him useful at Y Combinator. He could think like an investor without speaking as if founders were only numbers on a page. The move also gave him a much wider view of technology. Instead of seeing one market, he watched companies in payments, housing, software, medicine, education, transportation, and many other fields. Y Combinator became the place where Altman learned to compare hundreds of possible futures. Becoming an investor changed the scale of his learning. As a founder, he had one company and one set of mistakes. At Y Combinator, he could watch hundreds of teams test ideas at the same time. He saw which founders moved quickly, which avoided bad news, which listened too much, which listened too little, and which kept improving after early embarrassment. His advice became less theoretical because it was built from many small comparisons repeated over several years. Fact 18. Soon after Looped, Altman began building the investment record that would later make him far wealthier than the sale of his own company. One early decision was a small investment in Stripe, the payments company founded by Patrick and John Collison. Later reporting described Altman putting about $15,000 into the young company for a stake of roughly 2%. The exact value changed through later fundraising and dilution, but the original choice became extraordinarily valuable as Stripe grew into one of the largest private technology companies in the world. The investment was not a random lottery ticket. Altman knew the Y Combinator network, understood the difficulty of accepting money online, and paid attention to founders who moved unusually quickly. Stripe's early product removed technical pain that thousands of other companies shared. The story also became part of a more critical debate about Altman's investing. Later accounts said he sometimes sought personal positions in especially promising companies while holding influential roles around founders. Altman has disputed claims that he improperly blocked other investors or placed himself ahead of the institution. Both the success and the dispute matter. The investment showed excellent judgment and transformed his personal financial position. It also demonstrated how difficult it can be to separate several roles when one person is advisor, network leader, investor, and friend. Altman's later wealth did not come mainly from a chief executive salary. It grew from ownership in companies selected early, when the evidence was incomplete and access to the founder mattered almost as much as the money. Fact 19. Paul Graham did not hand Y Combinator to Altman after one impressive conversation. He spent more than a year trying to recruit him. When Looped was sold, Altman became available for a new role. Graham already knew him from the first Y Combinator group and had watched him mature from a teenage founder into an advisor whom other founders called during difficult moments. Graham later wrote that he began trying to recruit Altman in 2012 and did not succeed until the following year. That long pursuit matters because Graham was not searching for a ceremonial replacement. Y Combinator was growing beyond the small program he and Jessica Livingston had run almost like a family project. More startups were applying, successful alumni were becoming powerful, and the organization needed someone who could turn an intimate experiment into a durable institution. Altman was a surprising choice in one sense. His own company had not become a defining success. In another sense, that made him useful. He understood the embarrassment of a product that did not spread as hoped, the pressure of investors, the difficulty of keeping co-founders aligned, and the strange period after a company is sold, but a founder still has to decide who he is. Graham's persistence was an early sign of Altman's unusual value. People with stronger technical records or larger exits existed. Graham wanted the person he trusted to make hard judgments about founders, growth, and the future direction of the entire network. Fact 20. Altman became president of Y Combinator when he was only 28. Paul Graham's public explanation was unusually strong. Graham called him both fearsomely effective and fundamentally benevolent. He said Altman understood startups as well as almost anyone he knew and was the person he consulted when he wanted a second opinion on a difficult problem. That praise became part of Altman's public identity for years. The age difference was striking. Graham had built and sold a software company, written influential essays, and spent nearly a decade shaping Y Combinator. Altman had founded one company that produced a respectable sale, but not a cultural breakthrough. Yet Graham believed the younger man was better suited to the next stage. The decision shows how Altman was evaluated by people close to him. They were not mainly impressed by a single product. They were impressed by speed, judgment, memory, persuasion, and a willingness to carry many problems at once. He could listen to a founder describe a messy company, identify the central weakness, and speak as though the next action were obvious. That confidence inspired people, but it also concentrated authority quickly. At 28, Altman was no longer only giving advice. He was deciding which founders entered one of the most valuable networks in technology and how that network would grow. The quiet former founder had become a gatekeeper for thousands of other ambitions. Fact 21. Altman did not want to preserve the Y Combinator he inherited. He said that a new leader must effectively found the organization again. This was a bold approach because the old model was already working. A small group of partners selected young companies, gave them a modest investment, met them during office hours, and introduced them to investors at Demo Day. The simplicity was part of the appeal. Altman looked at that successful machine and saw limits. The program helped companies during a short early period, then released them into a larger financial system that did not always share Y Combinator's interests. He wanted support to begin earlier, continue later, reach more founders, and include research that might never fit a normal startup timetable. He described this as refounding Y Combinator. In practice, it meant changing roles, adding programs, recruiting more partners, enlarging the batches, and treating the alumni network as a force that could shape entire industries. The phrase reveals his management instinct. Altman rarely accepts a respected institution as a finished object. He asks what it would look like if it were 10 times larger and more powerful. That habit can produce growth that a cautious manager would never attempt. It can also make colleagues feel that the ground is moving before the last change has settled. At Y Combinator, both effects appeared. The organization became broader and more influential. It also began debating whether the qualities that made the early program special could survive Altman's scale. Fact 22. One of Altman's largest Y Combinator bets was simple to state and difficult to execute. Fund far more companies. He spoke about moving from hundreds of startups to 1,000 a year, and eventually imagined numbers far beyond that. To him, talented founders were not a tiny natural resource that had already been discovered. They were people spread across countries, schools, professions, and backgrounds who lacked access to the right network. Growth created practical problems. More companies meant less time with each team, larger demo days, more partners, and a greater risk that founders would feel processed rather than personally understood. Some Y Combinator partners warned that the program was becoming too large. Founders complained that the intimacy of earlier batches was disappearing. Altman did not dismiss those concerns, but he was reluctant to accept smallness as the solution. His answer was usually another system. Delegate more, create specialized programs, improve selection, build online education, and make the network itself carry part of the support. This disagreement was not merely about class size. It captured two different ideas of excellence. One idea protects quality by remaining selective and personal. The other tries to build quality into a structure that can reach many more people. Altman consistently chose the second path. The decision helped turn Y Combinator into a much larger institution, but it also revealed a trait that appears throughout his career. When warned that expansion may weaken something valuable, his first instinct is usually to redesign the system rather than reduce the ambition. Fact 23. Altman pushed Y Combinator away from its image as a place mainly for small internet companies. Software startups were attractive because a few people with laptops could build a product cheaply. Energy, biology, robotics, advanced manufacturing, and new forms of transportation demanded laboratories, equipment, regulation, and much longer timelines. They were harder to fit into a short startup program. Altman believed that avoiding those fields created a larger danger. The easiest companies to fund were not always the companies working on the most important problems. He publicly asked for applications in areas such as clean energy, biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and robotics. The shift changed the conversations around Y Combinator. Founders who once might have assumed that an accelerator would not understand a reactor, a medical platform, or a new industrial process were invited to apply. Altman also used his own money and reputation to support energy companies, making the message more than a marketing slogan. This was one of his clearest attempts to direct technology rather than merely predict it. He believed that when a powerful investor says a field matters, students study it, engineers join it, and other investors begin paying attention. That belief contains both confidence and danger. It recognizes that capital shapes the future. It also gives a small group of selectors enormous influence over which futures receive a chance. Altman did not pretend Y Combinator was neutral. He wanted it to push talented people toward problems he considered important. Fact 24. Under Altman, Y Combinator stopped being one program and became a group of connected programs. YC Core remained the familiar accelerator. YC Fellowship tried to reach founders at an even earlier stage. YC Continuity was created to invest larger amounts in companies that had already grown beyond the first program. YC Research was designed for work that might be valuable without becoming a normal venture-backed company. Hacker News remained an influential community around the organization. Altman's role changed with the structure. He no longer needed to manage every weekly detail of the main batch. Other partners could run separate units while he moved across them, deciding how the pieces should fit and where the group should expand next. This is a useful example of how he builds power. Instead of collecting unrelated projects under one title, he connects them so that success in one area strengthens the others. Early founders enter the accelerator. Growing companies receive later capital. Alumni advise new founders. Research projects attract people interested in problems that ordinary startups may ignore. The arrangement also increased complexity. A simple organization with one clear purpose became a small ecosystem. That required more trust, more delegation, and clearer boundaries between Altman's personal investments and the institution's interests. The result looked like many later Altman projects: ambitious, networked, difficult to explain in one sentence, and built on the belief that the whole system could become more valuable than any single part. Fact 25. YC Research began partly because Altman wanted a place for questions that could not promise a quick financial return. He supported the idea with a personal commitment of $10 million. The amount was important, but the choice was more revealing. A normal investor asks how a project will make money and when that money may return. Research into basic income, new forms of computing, education, or social systems may produce knowledge without producing a company that can be sold. Altman argued that some questions were too important to wait for a perfect business model. He wanted researchers to work with more freedom than a startup usually allows, and with more speed than a traditional institution sometimes provides. The first projects did not all remain inside Y Combinator. The basic income work eventually developed into open research with its own organization and long study. Other research directions changed, ended, or moved elsewhere. That uneven history is normal for experimentation, but it also shows that creating a research institution is harder than announcing one. For Altman, the gift joined two sides of his personality. He is deeply comfortable with investment and ownership, yet he also wants to support work whose value cannot be captured easily by an investor. He often speaks as though future abundance will require both markets and institutions willing to fund public knowledge. The $10 million commitment was not proof that every research idea would succeed. It was proof that he was willing to spend personal wealth on questions he believed normal venture capital would neglect. Fact 26. Altman's Y Combinator office hours became famous for speed. Founders arrived with problems that had often consumed them for weeks: a co-founder disagreement, weak growth, an investor who wanted new terms, a product that users praised but did not return to, or a hiring decision that could change the company. Altman listened, asked narrow questions, and tried to identify the decision hidden beneath the story. His style could feel clarifying. A founder who had built an elaborate explanation might leave with one concrete task: call the customers, remove the feature, fix the relationship, stop pretending the numbers are good, make the offer, ship the product. The same speed could feel brutal. Founders are emotionally attached to their companies, and a short meeting cannot contain every detail. Altman sometimes reached conclusions before other people felt fully heard. His confidence made the advice easier to follow, even when the evidence remained incomplete. This is where his talent and risk sit close together. Pattern recognition is powerful in a field where many companies repeat the same mistakes. It becomes dangerous when a familiar pattern hides an unusual case. Altman built much of his reputation in those compressed conversations. He was rarely the person writing the code or speaking to the customer. He was the person trying to see the entire board at once and tell the founder which move mattered now. Fact 27. Y Combinator interviews forced Altman to judge people under severe time pressure. A team might receive only a short meeting after months or years of work. The partners needed to decide whether the founders were capable, honest, fast, united, and deeply connected to the problem. A polished presentation was less important than the answers that appeared when the prepared speech broke apart. Altman paid close attention to determination. He believed many startup problems could be repaired if the founders kept learning and moving. A clever idea with a weak team was fragile. A strong team could change the idea, rebuild the product, and survive embarrassment. He also watched how co-founders spoke to one another. Did one person answer every question? Did they disagree honestly or perform agreement? Could they explain what users actually did rather than what the founders hoped they would do? Did they know the important numbers without searching for them? The interview system suited Altman because it joined psychology, competition, and compressed decision-making. It resembled poker more than an academic examination. Information was incomplete. People had incentives to present themselves well. The judge had to notice both the answer and the way the answer arrived. No interview can reveal a whole person, and Y Combinator rejected founders who later succeeded elsewhere. Still, thousands of these meetings trained Altman to make consequential judgments quickly. That training later shaped how he recruited researchers, selected executives, and evaluated partners far beyond startups. Fact 28. Patrick Collison, the co-founder of Stripe, once compared Altman's mind to the claw machine in an amusement arcade. It moves across many subjects, then suddenly drops very deep into one. The image fits his career. Altman can move from housing policy to nuclear fusion, from startup financing to brain-computer interfaces, from personal routines to the design of global computing infrastructure. He is not the leading expert in all these fields. His skill is deciding when a subject deserves concentrated attention and learning enough to ask useful questions. This style helps him connect areas that specialists often keep separate. Energy becomes part of artificial intelligence because data centers need electricity. Basic income becomes part of automation because productivity may change the labor market. Identity becomes part of the internet because machines can imitate human behavior. The weakness is equally clear. A fast learner may feel ready before the people who have spent decades in the field believe he understands the limits. Altman's confidence can make a provisional conclusion sound settled. People who admire him call that intellectual range. People who distrust him call it overreach. The claw machine comparison remains useful because it avoids both myths. His mind does not hold every subject at expert depth. It moves widely, chooses a target, and descends with unusual focus. Much of his influence comes from deciding which target receives that focus next. Fact 29. Altman's impatience is almost as important as his curiosity. Long profiles have described his narrow tolerance for subjects and people he considers ineffective. When something interests him, he can study it intensely, call experts, read technical material, and continue a conversation for hours. When it does not, his attention can disappear with uncomfortable speed. That selectivity protects time. A leader responsible for many projects cannot treat every request as equally important. Altman's career depends on saying no, ending discussions, and moving attention toward the few decisions he believes can change the outcome. Yet people are not tasks on a list. Someone who feels uninteresting or slow to a powerful leader may still hold essential knowledge. Impatience can silence disagreement, especially when the impatient person controls money, status, or access. Altman seems aware of part of this problem. He has written about choosing excellent colleagues and creating direct communication. But awareness does not erase the effect of a fast, confident judgment on a room. People begin editing themselves. They shorten explanations. They may hide uncertainty because uncertainty appears inefficient. This trait helps explain why descriptions of Altman can sound so different. To a high-performing founder in crisis, his focus may feel like rescue. To To someone who needs time, context, or patience, the same focus may feel cold. The behavior is consistent. The experience depends on which side of his attention a person occupies. Fact 30. Altman is often described as fiercely loyal once someone enters his trusted circle. Founders have recalled calls during emergencies, introductions made without immediate benefit to him, and support that continued after a company stopped looking fashionable. He values people who move quickly, tell him difficult truths, and remain useful during pressure. When he believes in someone, he can attach his own reputation to that person's future. Loyalty is one reason his network became so strong. Y Combinator founders did not only receive an investment, they entered a community where successful alumni could hire, advise, fund, or defend one another. Altman became a central connector inside that community. The firing crisis at OpenAI later showed the extraordinary strength of those relationships, but the pattern was built earlier. Founders, investors, and executives had years of experience calling him and receiving action rather than sympathy alone. Close loyalty can also create an inside and an outside. People within the circle experience generosity and protection. People beyond it may see a leader who gives trusted allies more access, information, and opportunity. In any powerful network, friendship and governance can become difficult to separate. Altman's life repeatedly returns to this tension. He speaks about institutions and missions, yet his practical power is deeply personal. It rests on who answers his calls, who believes his promises, who receives his support, and who is willing to stand beside him when the formal structure turns hostile. Fact 31. Altman treats clear communication as a form of speed. A vague leader can create days of wasted work. One person hears a suggestion, another hears an order, and a third assumes the decision is still open. The team moves in several directions while everyone believes they are following the same plan. Altman prefers direct statements. What is the goal? Who owns it? What must happen next? What evidence would change the decision? When does the team stop discussing and begin acting? This style became useful at Y Combinator, where founders often arrived with complicated explanations for simple failures. The product was not growing. The users were leaving. The co-founders no longer trusted one another. Clear language removed the protective story around the problem. Directness can become excessive. Altman's emails have sometimes been so short that they appear rude. A fast answer may omit the emotional or political information needed to make the answer work. People can understand the words and still feel uncertain about the relationship behind them. His best communication, therefore, combines two qualities: compression and context. He is strongest when he can reduce a problem without reducing the people involved. He is weakest when speed makes human complexity look like noise. The habit explains why he often sounds calm even while demanding urgent action. He wants the message to reduce confusion, not display his own stress. The room may be under pressure, but the sentence should still point in one direction. Fact 32. Altman likes an unusual combination in leaders: calmness and urgency. Urgency alone can turn a company into permanent panic. Every problem becomes a fire, employees hide mistakes, and the loudest person controls attention. Calmness alone creates a different failure. Difficult decisions remain open, deadlines slide, and a team confuses a pleasant atmosphere with progress. Altman tries to hold both states at once. The problem is serious. The work must move. Yet the leader should not spread fear merely to prove that the problem matters. This combination suits his public manner. He can discuss enormous risks in a soft voice and then describe a schedule that requires extraordinary speed. Supporters find the contrast reassuring. Critics sometimes hear a sales technique. The calm tone makes a radical demand feel ordinary. Inside an organization, the balance depends on trust. Employees must believe that urgency reflects the real situation rather than the leader's appetite for expansion. They must also believe that calmness does not hide information. Altman has succeeded when teams accepted both parts of the message. OpenAI employees worked at great speed, while describing the mission in almost historic terms. He has struggled when colleagues believe the calm explanation and the private reality did not match. The principle is therefore more than a productivity idea. It is a test of leadership credibility. Calm urgency works only when people trust the person deciding what is urgent. Fact 33. Altman organizes much of his life with handwritten lists. He has described keeping lists for different time horizons: the year, the month, and the day. Paper gives him freedom to cross out, reorder, add arrows, and rewrite a task without opening another application. For a person surrounded by advanced software, the system is deliberately simple. The lists are not only reminders, they force decisions about priority. A long list can expose the uncomfortable truth that everything cannot be important at once. Altman rewrites his pages as circumstances change, moving a small number of tasks toward the top. This habit fits his broader way of thinking. Large visions become manageable when divided into the next concrete actions. A research laboratory needs money, people, computing power, legal structure, and partnerships. Each part can be discussed, assigned, and placed on a schedule. Lists can also create an illusion of control. Human relationships, scientific discoveries, political resistance, and unexpected crises do not move neatly because they have been written on paper. Altman's career includes several moments when events ignored the plan completely. Still, the handwritten pages explain part of his unusual output. Instead of waiting for a perfect mental state, he decides what matters on paper. He places the work outside his head, changes the order, and begins. The method is ordinary. The scale of the tasks written on the paper is not. Fact 34. Altman compresses routine work aggressively. He prefers many meetings to be either very short or long enough to solve a real problem. A brief meeting can exchange information and make a decision. A long conversation can explore a complicated issue without pretending it will fit into a polite half hour. The middle length often becomes a performance in which everyone speaks but nothing changes. His email style follows the same logic. Replies may be only a few words. He tries to prevent small requests from expanding until they consume the day. That efficiency can help colleagues move quickly, but it can also make a neutral message sound angry or dismissive. Even his physical work style is less formal than his position suggests. He has written about using a comfortable couch and laptop despite having a desk and large monitors. The goal is not to look like an executive. It is to remain in the position where he can read, write, and decide for long periods. These details once occupied many separate descriptions of Altman's productivity. Together, they show one pattern: remove ceremony from repeated work. The meeting, device, desk, and message are tools rather than symbols. The risk is that people may need more ceremony than he does. A thoughtful explanation, a scheduled conversation, or visible attention can communicate respect. Efficiency saves time, but leadership also depends on how other people experience the time you give them. Fact 35. Altman takes sleep seriously, but the important fact is not the brand of mattress or the exact temperature of a room. It is that he learned his mental performance has physical limits. He prefers a cold, dark, quiet place to sleep, and has written that poor rest damages his ability to think. During travel, crisis, and rapid company growth, that simple rule becomes difficult to protect. The more important the work appears, the easier it is to treat sleep as wasted time. Altman's experience pushed him toward the opposite conclusion. A tired leader may still speak confidently while making slower, narrower, and more emotional decisions. The danger is especially high when other people assume the leader is seeing the whole system clearly. His broader health routine has included vegetarian food, exercise, fasting, supplements selected with medical testing, and efforts to avoid too much sugar. None of these personal choices proves a universal method, and he has warned that his routine should not be copied blindly. Placed together, the details reveal a practical attitude toward the body. Altman experiments, measures how he feels, keeps what appears useful, and changes what does not. The approach resembles product development more than a fixed philosophy. The limitation is obvious. A human body is not software, and personal experience is not clinical evidence. The useful fact is simpler. The person making some of the world's largest technological decisions knows that his thinking still depends on ordinary sleep, food, movement, and recovery. Fact 36. Altman has described periods when his motivation falls sharply for a week or two. That admission matters because his public image suggests almost mechanical drive. He moves between companies, governments, research programs, investments, and long conversations about the future. It would be easy to imagine that he wakes each morning with the same level of certainty. His own description is less polished. Sometimes a fog arrives. Work feels heavier. The normal feeling of forward motion disappears. He has said he tries not to panic or redesign his entire life during those periods. He waits, reduces unnecessary pressure, and expects the energy to return. This response shows a form of patience that is less visible than his ambition. A temporary loss of motivation does not automatically mean the mission is wrong. It may be fatigue, accumulated stress, disappointment, or simply a normal change in mood. The distinction is important for someone who makes long commitments. A leader who treats every low week as a final truth will abandon projects repeatedly. A leader who ignores every low week may miss a genuine warning. Altman's method is not presented as medical advice. It is a personal rule. Do not make permanent decisions from a temporary fog. The fact adds needed texture to the image of endless productivity. His drive is not constant. Part of the drive comes from knowing how to continue after it temporarily disappears. Fact 37. Altman deliberately creates time to decide what deserves his effort. He has written that productivity is not only doing more tasks. A person can complete a full day of low-value work and still avoid the one decision that matters. For Altman, books, nature, and long conversations with interesting people are not escapes from work. They are ways to improve the choice of work. This is especially important because his network presents him with endless opportunities. A new company can sound exciting. A scientific field can appear close to a breakthrough. A political problem can demand attention. Without space to think, every urgent request competes on equal terms. Reading gives him access to arguments outside the current meeting. Nature removes the pressure to answer immediately. Conversations expose him to people whose knowledge does not fit his own framework. The practice also helps explain his wide range of projects. Altman's attention moves across technology, energy, biology, economics, and public policy because he spends time asking which bottleneck could affect many other systems. Wide attention can become scattered attention. The challenge is deciding when curiosity should remain curiosity and when it deserves money, reputation, and years of effort. Altman's answer is not perfect, but it is consistent. First, create distance from the incoming requests. Then, search for the small number of problems whose solution could change many others. Only after that does speed become useful. Fact 38. Altman has said that he cannot remain highly productive for long on work he does not care about. Some people can separate interest from duty and continue through repetition for years. Altman's motivation appears more dependent on belief. He wants to feel that the task matters, that progress is possible, and that the result could grow far beyond the current effort. When that connection disappears, he tries to delegate, redesign the role, or leave. This helps explain the jumps in his career. After Looped, he did not spend years trying to prove that he could build another similar mobile application. He moved toward selecting founders. Later, he left the daily leadership of Y Combinator to concentrate on artificial intelligence. The pattern has advantages. Deep interest creates energy that discipline alone cannot produce. It also allows a person to become unusually good at work that fits his mind. The danger is that every institution contains necessary tasks that are not exciting. Someone must manage conflict, check details, explain decisions repeatedly, and finish work after the original inspiration has faded. Leaders who follow interest alone can leave other people carrying the maintenance. Altman's career therefore depends heavily on delegation and strong teams. He chooses the direction, recruits people who care about the parts he cannot hold, and tries to keep his own attention on the highest leverage decisions. That system works only when the delegated work receives real respect. Interest may choose the mission, but institutions survive through people willing to complete the less glamorous parts. Fact 39. Altman places family, close friends, and a partner near the beginning of his advice about a successful life. The order is notable because he is associated with extreme work. Many ambitious people treat relationships as something to repair after the company, promotion, or project is complete. The repair date keeps moving because important work never truly ends. Altman has warned that sacrificing the people closest to you is both emotionally destructive and strategically foolish. Friends and family preserve a version of the person that existed before the title. They can recognize exhaustion, arrogance, or fear when colleagues may be rewarded for ignoring it. His own life shows that relationships and work have often overlapped. He built Looped with Nick Sevo while they were a couple. His brothers entered technology and investing. His husband is a software engineer. Many of his closest friends are founders whose companies connect to his professional network. That overlap creates strength and complication. A trusted friend can provide honest advice at midnight. The same closeness can blur where personal loyalty ends and institutional responsibility begins. Altman offers no neat formula for balance. His schedule has included constant travel and periods of extreme pressure. The more modest principle is that relationships cannot survive forever on future promises. This fact becomes more important later, during the week he was fired, when friends and allies did not remain at a polite distance. They entered the crisis and helped determine the outcome. Fact 40. One of Altman's best-known essays is titled, "The Days Are Long, but the Decades Are Short." The phrase describes the strange scale of a life. A difficult afternoon can feel endless, while 10 years disappear when viewed from the future. Altman uses that contrast to argue for decisions that will still make sense after the immediate embarrassment or excitement has faded. This long view appears throughout his career. He invests in energy companies that may require years of engineering and regulation. He supports research on basic income because automation may reshape work slowly and then suddenly. He builds organizations around technologies whose final form remains uncertain. Long-term thinking can protect a person from fashion. It can also become a way to avoid present accountability. A leader may defend a current cost by promising a future benefit that no one can yet measure. Altman's strongest long-term choices connect the distant goal to visible steps. A fusion company must build and test machines. A research project must publish methods and results. A mission-driven company must still explain how its structure serves the mission today. The essay's title also carries a personal warning. Decades are made from ordinary days, and a person can lose relationships or health while claiming to protect the future. Altman's life repeatedly tests that idea. He is unusually comfortable planning years ahead. The harder challenge is making the daily path worthy of the future he describes. Fact 41. Altman believes inspiration has a short half-life. An idea can feel urgent at night and ordinary a week later. The person returns to email, meetings, and familiar obligations. Nothing is tested, so the idea remains perfect and harmless inside the imagination. Altman tries to act while the energy is present. He writes the thought down, sends a message, calls someone who understands the field, builds a small version, or asks what evidence would prove the idea wrong. Action turns excitement into information. This habit helped him begin projects outside his formal job. YC research started while colleagues were already telling him to slow down. OpenAI began through messages and meetings among people worried about the direction of artificial intelligence. His energy investments grew from questions about what future computing and industry would require. Acting quickly does not mean committing fully. A call or experiment is cheaper than a company. The important step is to move the idea from private imagination into contact with reality. Speed can also pull other people into a plan before they understand the consequences. Altman's enthusiasm and access make it easy to gather talent around an early possibility. That creates responsibility to distinguish exploration from decision. His rule works best when the first action is reversible. Capture the energy, learn something real, and delay the irreversible promise until the evidence becomes stronger. Fact 42. Altman has spent much of his career learning to survive short-term misunderstanding. A founder who is early often looks wrong. A product without users looks useless. A scientific project with no working machine looks like an expensive fantasy. Public judgment arrives before the experiment is complete. Altman argues that ambitious people need enough independence to continue through that period. They should not ignore every critic, but they cannot require immediate approval from everyone around them. His own projects have repeatedly attracted ridicule. Location sharing on early mobile phones sounded unnecessary to many people. Funding nuclear energy looked unfashionable during years when software received most attention. OpenAI's original warnings sounded distant before ChatGPT became widely used. Being misunderstood is not evidence of being correct. Bad ideas are also misunderstood, and stubborn people often use future vindication to avoid present facts. Altman's real test is whether the work produces stronger evidence over time. This is why he separates public opinion from the judgment of a small group he respects. A crowd reacts to the visible story. Trusted experts can examine the mechanism, the team, and the progress. The approach protects unusual work, but it also gives enormous importance to the trusted group. If that circle becomes too loyal or too similar, independence turns into insulation. Altman's career contains examples of both courage under criticism and conflict created by people who felt excluded from the decision. Fact 43. Altman tries to choose a small number of people whose judgment can change his mind. The group is not meant to agree with him automatically. He values people who are intelligent, productive, optimistic enough to build, and independent enough to say that a plan is failing. The combination is rare because disagreement is easy when a person has no responsibility for the result, and loyalty is easy when honesty has no cost. A trusted critic reduces the noise of public attention. When thousands of people are praising or attacking a decision, Altman can ask whether the few people who understand the details see a real problem. This method has shaped his companies and investments. He repeatedly forms close relationships with founders, scientists, and executives who become advisors across several projects. The network gives him fast access to specialized knowledge and direct feedback. The danger is that a small circle can become a court. Members may depend on the leader for money, status, or opportunity. Even honest people learn which disagreements are welcomed and which threaten the relationship. Altman's history makes this risk impossible to ignore. Some close colleagues have defended him with unusual force. Others have said they eventually lost trust in the way information moved around him. A small, trusted group is useful only if trust includes the freedom to deliver bad news. The quality of Altman's decisions, therefore, depends not only on whom he respects, but on whether those people still feel able to surprise him. Fact 44. Altman treats personal connections as part of the machinery of serious work. Silicon Valley often speaks as though companies are built from ideas and code. In practice, a founder needs people to answer calls, share information, make introductions, forgive mistakes, provide money, and remain present when the public story turns negative. Altman became exceptionally skilled at building those connections. He knew founders before they became famous, investors before they led major funds, and researchers before their field became the center of public attention. Each relationship created new paths through the network. His value often appeared at the moment two people needed to meet. A scientist needed capital. A founder needed an executive. A government official needed someone who could explain a technical risk. Altman could connect the problem to a person quickly. Networks reward generosity, but they also produce power. The connector learns private information and influences who receives access. Favors may be remembered long after the original exchange. Altman's supporters see a person who helps talented people move faster. Critics worry that the network can protect him from ordinary consequences and make institutions depend too heavily on personal loyalty. Both views recognize the same skill. Altman operates through dense human systems built around large goals. The relationships are not decoration around the work. They are one of the main reasons the work can happen at all. Fact 45. Altman's loyalty can become combative when he believes someone inside his circle is under threat. Friends describe a person who does more than offer kind words. He makes calls, finds lawyers, introduces investors, recruits help, and uses his own standing to change the situation. That action-oriented loyalty has made him valuable during startup crises. It has also created a strong expectation of mutual support. People who have benefited from his help may later feel a personal duty to defend him. This does not make their loyalty false, but it makes the network more powerful than a list of independent professional relationships. The pattern was visible years before OpenAI. Y Combinator alumni formed a community in which founders invested in one another, shared employees, and defended the institution that had given them an early chance. Altman became one of the people at the center of that exchange. Combative loyalty can protect a company from unfair attack. It can also turn disagreement into a contest between camps. Once a conflict is framed as betrayal, compromise becomes harder, and neutral people are pressured to choose a side. Altman's life contains several moments when loyalty saved a project, and several moments when critics believed loyalty weakened oversight. The difference often depends on whether the threat came from outside the mission or from people responsible for governing it. For him, relationships create resilience. For institutions around him, the challenge is ensuring that resilience does not become immunity. Fact 46. Altman is unusually comfortable persuading experts in fields where he is not the deepest expert. He understands software and studied computer science, but he did not become a leading researcher in fusion, fission, biology, neuroscience, or artificial intelligence. His role is different. He learns enough to understand the central bottleneck, then tries to assemble the people and resources needed to attack it. This requires humility and confidence at the same time. Humility is needed to recognize what the expert knows. Confidence is needed to ask the expert to leave a secure position, join an uncertain project, and believe that the necessary money will appear. Altman's strongest recruiting conversations make specialists feel that their work belongs inside a larger mission. A difficult technical problem becomes connected to energy abundance, longer healthy lives, or a safer technological future. The same skill can look like manipulation when the larger mission is more certain than the evidence. Experts may agree on the importance of a problem while disagreeing about the schedule, the product, or the institution claiming to solve it. Altman's influence, therefore, does not come from pretending to know more science than the scientists. It comes from turning scientific possibility into an organizational plan. That distinction matters throughout this story. He did not personally invent the systems that made ChatGPT possible. He helped build the environment in which researchers, engineers, money, computing power, and public attention were brought together at extraordinary scale. Fact 47. Altman's concentration can be physically noticeable. People who have spent long days with him have described an unbroken stare, unusual sitting positions, and a way of listening that makes the speaker speed up. He can remain almost still while processing a complicated explanation, then interrupt with the single assumption he believes is wrong. This intensity helped create the image of a person operating at a different internal speed. It also fed careless public speculation about diagnosis. Altman has rejected attempts by strangers to label him from mannerisms or photographs. The more useful observation is that his attention is selective and powerful. When a problem enters the center of it, he wants the structure, incentives, people, and possible failure modes. Small talk and ceremony receive much less patience. That can make a conversation exciting, a person feels that the idea is being examined seriously rather than politely admired, it can also make the conversation uncomfortable because the attention does not soften when the answer is weak. Public figures are often turned into collections of visual clues. A posture becomes a personality. A quiet voice becomes innocence or calculation. Altman's manner invites that projection because it contrasts so sharply with the scale of his plans. The facts support a simpler conclusion. He concentrates hard, moves quickly, and gives little energy to subjects he considers secondary. Everything beyond that requires more caution than a photograph or a short meeting can provide. Fact 48. Altman often studies for a period and then makes a commitment much larger than outsiders expect. The pattern appears in startup investing, energy, artificial intelligence, longevity research, and new computer interfaces. He begins with questions, meets people who understand the field, and searches for the constraint that prevents progress. Once convinced that the constraint can move, he may commit money, reputation, and years. This is not cautious diversification. A cautious investor spreads risk and waits for more evidence. Altman is attracted to asymmetric bets, projects that may fail completely but could matter enormously if they work. The approach explains why his portfolio contains both ordinary software companies and efforts that sound like science fiction. He is not only asking which company is likely to return money, he is asking which success would change the range of possible futures. Large bets create stories around the person making them. Supporters see courage and foresight. Critics see a talent for making uncertain projects sound inevitable. The final result may not be known for decades, which gives both sides room to claim the evidence supports them. Altman's own role is often to make the bet possible before the technology is ready. He supplies belief early enough to recruit others. The skill is valuable, but it creates a duty to keep uncertainty visible. A large commitment can accelerate discovery. It can also persuade the public that a difficult scientific goal is closer than it really is. Fact 49. The central pattern of Altman's adult life is not productivity. It is escalation. A mobile application became a lesson in building companies. Advising founders became leadership of an accelerator. The accelerator became a group of investment and research programs. Concern about artificial intelligence became a laboratory. The laboratory became a global product company, an infrastructure project, and a political subject. Altman rarely responds to a difficult system by choosing a smaller version of the goal. He searches for more talent, more capital, a new structure, or a partner large enough to change the constraint. This instinct has produced real results. It helped Y Combinator broaden its reach and helped OpenAI obtain resources that a small research nonprofit could never have afforded. Escalation also increases the cost of error. A mistake inside a small startup harms a limited group. A mistake inside a global platform, energy project, or political partnership can spread far beyond the original team. That is why trust becomes more important as Altman's projects grow. People must believe not only that he can reach the goal, but that he will share crucial information, respect oversight, and admit when the plan changes. The rest of his story follows this escalation into money, politics, energy, artificial intelligence, and public power. The habits matter, but the deeper fact is his repeated refusal to keep an ambition at its original size. Fact 50. Altman's politics do not fit comfortably inside one group. He has supported Democratic candidates and causes, spoken about rights and economic security, and argued for public action on artificial intelligence. He has also criticized political systems that become slow, tribal, or unable to build. His policy interests often begin with technology. If automation creates enormous wealth, how should ordinary people share in it? If advanced systems can cause broad harm, what kind of regulation can reduce risk without freezing progress? If energy is too expensive, what prevents new infrastructure from being built? He has used the phrase politically homeless to describe a sense that no party fully represents his views. That position is common among wealthy technology leaders, and it deserves caution. Having access to politicians while claiming distance from political identity can still produce great influence. Altman is not outside politics. His company's investments and public proposals affect labor, energy, national security, education, and information. Whether he chooses a party label or not, his work is political because it changes who has power and how resources are distributed. His political donations and public comments have changed with events, and he has criticized figures from more than one side. The more stable theme is his belief that technological growth should be paired with a wider distribution of benefits. That position does not fit neatly into a traditional party argument. It supports aggressive innovation while also accepting that markets may not automatically share the gains. This combination appears in his work on cash transfers and national wealth sharing proposals. Fact 51. Altman's interest in universal basic income began before ChatGPT made automation a public obsession. He expected software and machines to make many forms of work cheaper. That could create more total wealth, but it might also weaken the link between having a job and having enough money to live. Instead of treating this only as a philosophical question, he helped fund a long research project. The organization was first connected to Y Combinator research and later became known as Open Research. The basic idea was direct. Give selected people regular cash with no requirement that they work, study, or spend it in a particular way. Then compare their lives with a larger group receiving a much smaller amount. Altman liked the experiment because it replaced confident arguments with data. Supporters of basic income often imagine freedom and creativity. Critics imagine reduced work and wasted money. Real people can respond in more complicated ways. The project also revealed a tension in Altman's life. He was helping build technology that might disrupt employment while funding research on how people could preserve security and choice if that disruption arrived. Fact 52. The large open research cash study followed thousands of adults in parts of Illinois and Texas. A smaller group received $1,000 each month for 3 years. A larger comparison group received $50 each month. The payments were unconditional. The results were not a simple victory for either political side. Recipients used the money for normal needs such as housing, food, transportation, and help for other people. They gained more freedom to make certain decisions. Some searched longer for better jobs or spent time on caregiving. Average work hours fell slightly. Health improvements were limited and did not remain equally strong across every measure. Cash reduced some pressures, but did not repair weak medical systems, expensive housing, or every long-term problem. Altman supported a study that produced a complicated answer rather than a perfect advertisement. That is important. A useful experiment can show that an idea helps without proving it solves everything. For him, basic income remained one possible tool in a much larger question. How can technological wealth produce real freedom for people who do not own the technology? The results were more complicated than a campaign slogan. Cash increased flexibility, planning, and some forms of spending and opportunity, while average work and income effects were modestly lower in some measures. Health improvements were not broad or immediate. Parents reported meaningful changes in time and behavior, but short-term child outcomes did not suddenly transform. The study was valuable precisely because it refused to turn one payment into a miracle. Altman funded a question and allowed the answer to remain mixed. Fact 53. Altman proposed another wealth-sharing idea called American Equity. The proposal imagined a national fund that would collect value from large companies and privately held land. Adult citizens would receive a regular share, similar to owning a small piece of the country's productive assets. His argument was that technology and capital tend to concentrate wealth. If ownership remains narrow, faster growth can make the owners much richer without giving everyone else a meaningful claim on the result. This plan was never adopted as national policy. It should not be confused with an existing program. Its importance is that Altman was thinking beyond wages. He wanted people to receive part of the upside created by economic growth. The proposal also reflected his confidence in the future value of companies and land. He believed a broad ownership system could grow with the economy rather than depend only on taxation after wealth had already concentrated. Critics could reasonably ask how the fund would be governed, how assets would be valued, and whether the plan would increase political conflict. Altman presented it as a direction, not a finished machine. Fact 54. Altman became wealthy mainly through investments and company holdings outside a conventional salary. After Looped, he invested in many young technology companies. Some became extremely valuable. His network at Y Combinator gave him early access to founders and markets that most investors never saw. This matters because people often assume his wealth came directly from owning a large part of OpenAI. For years, he publicly said that he did not hold a normal equity stake in the organization. OpenAI's later structures became more complicated, but his fortune was already tied to investments in other companies. The pattern reveals how venture capital works. An investor can be wrong many times. A small number of exceptional companies may produce most of the total return. Altman has described compounding as a kind of magic. Capital invested early in a strong company can grow far faster than income earned 1 hour at a time. That belief shapes his economic ideas too. He understands why ownership creates wealth, because ownership created much of his own. Fact 55. Altman has said that he invested in hundreds of startups. No person can study hundreds of companies with the same depth. Many decisions therefore depend on founders, patterns, references, and a quick judgment about whether the opportunity is worth more attention. This wide portfolio gave Altman a practical map of Silicon Valley. He saw which markets attracted talent, how companies failed, what strong founders did under pressure, and how investor behavior changed during booms and crashes. It also created possible conflicts. A person helping direct Y Combinator while making personal investments had to separate the interests of the institution, founders, and his own portfolio. Later reporting raised questions about whether those boundaries were always clear enough. The facts should be presented without turning every investment into proof of genius. A large portfolio naturally contains winners when the investor has access to many strong companies. Altman's deeper advantage was access combined with conviction. He saw many opportunities and sometimes recognized one early enough to make a large commitment. Fact 56. Altman helped create an investment firm called Hydrazine Capital with his brother Jack. Jack Altman also built a career in technology and became the founder of a human resources software company. The brothers' professional lives therefore overlapped with their family relationship. Hydrazine invested across software, science, and other ambitious areas. The name came from a powerful rocket fuel, which matched the firm's interest in projects with high energy and high risk. Working with a sibling can create unusual trust. Family members know one another before job titles appear. They also carry old patterns into professional decisions. The partnership shows that Altman's network does not end at the office. His family includes people involved in technology, investing, and entrepreneurship. It also reinforces a theme in his career. He rarely operates through only one institution. Even while leading a major organization, he has maintained personal investments and long-term projects outside it. Working with a sibling added another family connection to his financial life. Jack Altman also built companies and developed his own reputation, rather than remaining only Sam's brother. The partnership shows that the Altman family produced more than one entrepreneur, but it also reflects Sam's preference for trusted relationships. When money, information, and long-time horizons are involved, he often works with people whose behavior he has observed for years. Fact 57. Altman served on Reddit's board and briefly became its chief executive during a leadership transition in 2014. Reddit had a special connection to Y Combinator because it came from the same first batch as Looped. The platform had grown into a huge collection of communities, but it also faced serious problems involving culture, harassment, governance, and business direction. Altman's time as interim chief executive was short. He did not try to make himself the permanent center of the company. Instead, he helped manage the transition until a longer-term leader was selected. The experience gave him contact with a different kind of technology problem. Looped struggled to attract enough users. Reddit had an enormous and passionate community that was difficult to govern. Growth does not remove problems, it changes their form. Altman also personally invested in Reddit and remained connected to the company for years. The relationship later became financially important when Reddit entered the public market. The Reddit role was short, but it placed Altman inside a difficult community and governance problem. Reddit was not simply a software product. It contained thousands of communities with different rules, cultures, and conflicts. Leading it required decisions about speech, trust, and the relationship between a platform and its users. Those themes later became much larger in Altman's work with artificial intelligence, where a single system also serves people with radically different expectations. Fact 58. Altman's departure from Y Combinator was presented publicly as a transition toward OpenAI, but later reporting described a more troubled ending. By the late 2010s, some Y Combinator partners believed he was carrying too many overlapping roles and personal investments. Accounts published years later said several partners complained to Paul Graham and Jessica Livingston about trust, priorities, and the way decisions were communicated. The public language changed over time. One announcement described Altman as moving toward a chairman role. Later wording said he had stepped away from formal involvement. Altman has maintained that he was not fired and did not resist leaving. Graham has publicly said the organization wanted him to choose between Y Combinator and OpenAI, while private accounts reported by The New Yorker described deeper mistrust. There is no single public document that resolves every version. That uncertainty is exactly why the episode belongs in a careful portrait. It shows that the OpenAI firing was not the first time a group around Altman struggled with the relationship between his ambition, overlapping interests, and institutional trust. The story should not erase what he built at Y Combinator. Under his leadership, the organization expanded, created new programs, funded harder technologies, and increased its influence. Nor should those achievements erase the concerns of colleagues who worked close to him. Altman left with a powerful network and a much larger mission. The transition allowed OpenAI to receive his full attention, but it also carried unresolved questions that would return in another boardroom several years later. Fact 59. Energy became one of Altman's deepest long-term interests. His reasoning was direct. Almost every physical improvement requires energy. Cheaper and cleaner electricity can lower the cost of manufacturing, transportation, water treatment, heating, cooling, and computing. Artificial intelligence made the problem even more urgent. Training and operating large systems requires data centers filled with specialized machines. Those machines use great amounts of electricity. Altman did not want energy to become the wall that stopped progress. He supported both fusion and advanced fission, two different nuclear approaches. This was a personal bet as well as a corporate strategy. He invested large amounts of his own money years before the current demand for artificial intelligence data centers became obvious. Energy projects move slowly, face regulation, and can fail after enormous expense. Altman's willingness to remain involved shows his comfort with projects whose timescale is much longer than a normal software product. Fact 60. Altman first became closely involved with Helion Energy in the middle of the 2010s. Helion is trying to produce electricity through nuclear fusion. Fusion aims to combine light atomic nuclei and release energy, similar to the process that powers stars. It has been a scientific goal for decades, but commercial fusion has repeatedly remained farther away than supporters predicted. Altman visited the company, studied its approach, and became convinced that its small team and engineering culture offered a serious chance. He invested millions of dollars and later led a much larger financing round. He described Helion as one of the projects he felt most strongly about. At one stage, his investment represented a very large part of his liquid wealth. That decision was not safe diversification. It was a concentrated belief that a difficult technology could work. As of 2026, Helion was still working toward commercial power. Altman's bet had not become proof that fusion was solved. The fact is, the scale of the commitment, not the completion of the dream. Fact 61. Altman served for years as a leader on Helion's board, but stepped away from the board in 2026 as Helion and OpenAI explored a possible large partnership. The change was meant to reduce a conflict of interest. Altman had personal financial interests in the energy company while leading a technology company that could become a major customer for electricity. This situation shows how his projects began to connect. A personal investment made years earlier could become important infrastructure for OpenAI. It also shows why Altman's network of roles attracts scrutiny. When the same person is an investor, board member, company chief, and potential customer, decisions can benefit several interests at once. Stepping off the board does not remove every financial connection, but it creates a clearer boundary for negotiations. The episode is a reminder that ambitious ecosystems need ordinary governance. Even a future built around fusion and artificial intelligence still requires people to manage conflicts, contracts, and trust. Stepping away from the Helion board did not mean abandoning the energy thesis. It showed how overlapping roles can create governance problems. Altman had supported Helion personally while also leading a company that might become a giant buyer of electricity. A relationship that once looked like simple founder support had become a potential transaction between powerful organizations. Removing himself from the board reduced one conflict, but it also demonstrated how his concentrated network now touches multiple parts of the same future economy. Fact 62. Altman also supported Oklo, a company developing small, advanced fission power plants. Fission is different from fusion. It releases energy by splitting heavy atomic nuclei and is already used in commercial nuclear plants. Oklo aims to build smaller systems with different designs and fuel plans. Altman helped recruit the founders to Y Combinator, invested, and served as chairman for years. He later stepped down from that position in 2025, again reducing possible conflicts as OpenAI considered large energy needs. Supporting both Helion and Oklo shows that Altman did not place every energy hope on one scientific path. Fusion may offer extraordinary advantages if it works. Advanced fission may become available sooner because the basic process is already proven. Neither company should be described as having solved the energy problem. Both face technical, financial, and regulatory challenges. Altman's contribution was to provide money, attention, and access to projects that many normal software investors considered too slow or difficult. Fact 63. Altman has described preparing for disasters in unusually concrete ways. In a profile published in 2016, he said he kept supplies including water, batteries, antibiotics, potassium iodide, gold, weapons, and protective equipment. He also mentioned land in Big Sur that he could reach by air. The list became famous because it contrasted with his optimistic public image. How could someone who believed technology would create abundance prepare for social collapse? For Altman, optimism is not the belief that nothing will go wrong. He treats it as the belief that problems can be acted upon. A small probability of a terrible event may justify preparation if the cost is manageable. His friends reportedly discussed possible disasters, including pandemics, artificial intelligence failure, war, and other breakdowns. Some of those conversations sounded extreme at the time. The later global pandemic made emergency preparation feel less strange. Still, wealth changes what preparation means. Most people cannot purchase remote land or fly away from a crisis. Altman's survival plan reflected both anxiety and privilege. Fact 64. Altman learned to fly airplanes and has spoken about enjoying rented aircraft around California. Flying combines several things he likes: machines, freedom, speed, skill, and direct control. It also supports the disaster preparation plan he described because remote land is more useful if a person can reach it independently. A pilot must respect checklists: weather, fuel, equipment, and probability. Confidence without procedure can become fatal. This environment may help explain why Altman likes systems that combine bold action with detailed preparation. He has not built his public identity around aviation, but it appears repeatedly in profiles as one of his private interests. The ability also separates him from the image of a leader who experiences the physical world only through screens. He enjoys machines that move through real space and require immediate judgment. Flying offered a different kind of attention from software work. A pilot cannot solve an immediate problem with a persuasive presentation or an extra funding round. Weather, fuel, instruments, and physical limits remain real. Altman has often been attracted to systems where reality gives fast feedback. Aviation provides that feedback in a direct form. It combines freedom and risk, two ideas that appear repeatedly in his larger choices. Fact 65. Altman has also been an enthusiastic car collector and has enjoyed racing cars. A profile from his Y Combinator years described several performance cars, including McLarens and an older Tesla. The interest is expensive, physical, and slightly inconsistent with the quiet executive seen on stage. Racing creates fast feedback. The driver feels the result of attention, timing, and risk immediately. There is no long strategy document between the decision and the turn. Altman's love of cars fits his attraction to high-performance systems. He is interested not only in whether a machine works, but in how far it can be pushed. It also reveals that not every choice in his life is justified by social benefit. Some machines are simply enjoyable. That is worth saying because famous leaders often rebuild personal pleasure into a moral story. Altman likes fast cars. The fact does not need a larger excuse. The cars made him look less ascetic than his simple clothing and restrained manner suggested. He could discuss long-term social policy, eat uncomplicated vegetarian food, and still enjoy expensive machines built for speed. There is no need to force those details into one consistent image. People are usually less coherent than public brands. Altman's interest in racing is another reminder that the quiet voice does not indicate a quiet appetite for intensity. Fact 66. Altman's public image became more restrained as his influence grew. During his Y Combinator years, profiles included cars, parties, survival supplies, and a young leader trying to reshape Silicon Valley. After ChatGPT, every personal detail carried greater security and political consequences. He began speaking for a company whose products reached hundreds of millions of people. His words could affect markets, regulation, and international relationships. The result was a more controlled public presence. He often wore simple clothes, answered questions in a measured voice, and avoided revealing much about daily family life. This restraint can appear authentic or calculated. A chief executive under constant attention has reasons for both. The contrast between the private enthusiast and the public steward is one of the more interesting parts of his personality. He likes speed, large risks, and extreme futures, yet presents them through careful language and a calm surface. The change was partly practical. A startup investor can speak casually in ways that the leader of a globally important laboratory cannot. Every joke, prediction, and personal purchase may be interpreted as evidence about the company. Altman reduced some public exposure while becoming more famous, an unusual trade in an industry that rewards constant visibility. The result is a carefully controlled image that still leaves enough personal detail to keep people curious. Fact 67. Altman came close enough to politics to consider becoming a candidate himself. During the period when he led Y Combinator, he explored the idea of running for governor of California. He ultimately decided not to enter the race, but the interest was not merely a private fantasy. He was already writing about housing, economic growth, technology policy, inequality, and the effect of automation on work. Instead of running, he announced a project called the United Slate. The plan was to support a group of candidates in California and find someone willing to lead a ballot initiative focused on affordable housing. Altman argued that technology, economic fairness, and personal liberty should be treated as connected parts of one political program. The project did not become a major, lasting political force. That failure is informative. Selecting startup founders inside a network is different from building a broad electoral coalition. Voters do not share the same goals, incentives, or language as investors and engineers. Altman continued to donate host political conversations, and speak publicly about policy, but he did not turn himself into a conventional politician. His influence remained indirect, advising officials, testifying, funding research, supporting candidates, and presenting technological development as a national economic question. The NEAR campaign revealed another form of ambition. Altman did not view business as separate from government. He believed the rules around housing, immigration, energy, research, and wealth distribution could determine whether technological progress produced stability or anger. He stepped back from the ballot, but not from the belief that people building technology should also try to shape the social system around it. Fact 68. Altman left the daily leadership of Y Combinator in 2019 to focus more heavily on OpenAI. At the time, OpenAI was not a famous consumer company. It was a research organization facing an expensive problem. Training advanced systems required far more computing power and money than the original nonprofit model could easily provide. Leaving Y Combinator meant giving up a secure position at the center of the startup world. Altman chose a project with a much less certain business model and much larger scientific ambition. The decision followed his own advice about concentrating resources. He could not give full attention to every institution at once. Artificial intelligence had become the bet he considered most important. The transition also involved conflict, and later accounts challenged the clean public version of his departure. An honest portrait must include both sides. Altman moved toward OpenAI, and trust with some Y Combinator partners had weakened. Careers often look smoother after the fact than they felt while happening. Fact 69. OpenAI began in 2015 as a nonprofit research laboratory. Altman co-founded it with a group that included Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, Ilya Sutskever, John Schulman, Wojciech Zaremba, and others. The original mission was to develop advanced artificial intelligence in a way that benefited humanity. The nonprofit structure was meant to reduce the pressure to maximize normal investor profit. Altman's early role involved recruiting, strategy, fundraising, and public direction. He helped convince major researchers and supporters that a new organization could compete with the best corporate laboratories. The founding group was united by concern and ambition, but not by one permanent view of how the organization should grow. As the cost of research increased, disagreements about control, capital, and speed became more serious. OpenAI's later history cannot be understood as one person following a perfect plan. It was a series of adaptations by people who did not know how quickly the field would move. Fact 70. Altman's relationship with Elon Musk began as cooperation and later became open conflict. Both men helped launch OpenAI and shared concern that advanced artificial intelligence could become too concentrated. They also had strong views about leadership and control. OpenAI later said that Musk wanted majority ownership, control of the board, and the chief executive role in a proposed commercial structure. Musk left the board in 2018 and eventually built a competing artificial intelligence company. Years later, he sued OpenAI and publicly attacked its direction. OpenAI responded by publishing messages and arguing that Musk had supported a for-profit path when he expected to control it. The conflict includes legal claims, competing narratives, and personal history. It should not be simplified into one hero and one villain. For Altman, the episode shows the risk of building a mission with another highly ambitious leader. Shared concern about the future does not guarantee shared control of the organization. Fact 71. OpenAI's original nonprofit model could not easily provide the money required for increasingly large computing projects. Altman helped create a capped profit structure in 2019. Investors and employees could receive returns, but the nonprofit remained in control, and the returns were limited under the original design. The structure tried to combine incompatible goals: raise commercial capital, attract employees, move quickly, and remain controlled by a public mission. This was not a normal company, and the complexity later created confusion. Who held real power? What did the nonprofit owe humanity? How should investors be rewarded? What happened if safety and growth pointed in different directions? Altman is drawn to systems that attempt to escape an ordinary choice. Instead of non-profit or company, OpenAI became both. Instead of open research or closed product, it used different approaches at different times. Hybrid structures can produce flexibility. They can also become difficult to understand and govern. Fact 72. Altman persuaded Microsoft to become OpenAI's central technology and financial partner. In 2019, Microsoft invested $1 billion and provided cloud computing infrastructure. Later commitments became much larger. The partnership solved an immediate problem. OpenAI needed specialized computers at a scale few organizations could afford. Microsoft wanted access to advanced artificial intelligence for its products and cloud business. Altman's skill was not only obtaining money. He had to make OpenAI valuable enough to a much larger company while preserving enough independence for the mission. The relationship became especially important during his firing. Microsoft had invested heavily, but did not directly control the nonprofit board. It could not simply cancel the decision. Instead, Microsoft offered Altman and his colleagues a new home, which increased pressure on the board. The partnership demonstrates how Altman uses alliances. He may not own the largest infrastructure, but he can connect his organization to someone who does. Fact 73. Altman did not invent the technical ideas behind modern language models. The transformer architecture came from researchers at Google. OpenAI's systems were built by large teams of scientists, engineers, data specialists, safety researchers, designers, and operations staff. Technical reports list hundreds of contributors. Altman's role was different. He helped choose the direction, recruit leaders, raise capital, obtain computing power, decide when products would be released, and explain the mission publicly. Calling him the inventor of ChatGPT erases the people who built it. Saying he had no important role ignores the organizational work required to turn research into a global product. Accurate credit sits between those extremes. Altman is a builder of institutions more than a builder of algorithms. His most important product may be the organization capable of repeatedly producing new systems. This distinction protects both accuracy and the work of the researchers. Leadership can be essential without becoming authorship of every discovery. Altman's talent is closer to choosing a direction, assembling people, finding resources, negotiating partnerships, and keeping institutions moving through uncertainty. Those are real contributions, but they are different from inventing an architecture, running an experiment, or writing the code. The most honest portrait gives credit to both forms of work. Fact 74. The public release of ChatGPT in November of 2022 was much quieter than its later importance suggests. OpenAI presented it as a research preview. The internal name had sounded temporary. The team wanted to learn how ordinary people would use a conversational model and where it would fail. Altman did not launch it through a giant global event. The product spread because people immediately found uses for it and shared the experience with others. The modest launch is important to his story because it shows that even he did not fully predict the reaction. He understood the long-term importance of artificial intelligence, but he did not know that this particular interface would become a household name so quickly. Real history often contains this mismatch. A famous event begins as one experiment among many. Only later does everyone build a clean story around it. For Altman, ChatGPT changed his life from influential technology leader to global public figure. Fact 75. ChatGPT reached 1 million users within days, and Altman's responsibilities changed almost immediately. He was no longer speaking mainly to researchers, founders, and investors. Teachers, parents, students, artists, workers, lawyers, doctors, and governments wanted answers about what the technology would do. The chief executive became the translator between a technical organization and the public. He had to discuss benefits without promising perfection, risks without creating panic, and business needs without abandoning the mission. This role suited his communication style. He could explain a complex future in simple language and remain calm under hostile questions. It also increased the danger of over-personalizing the company. OpenAI contained many leaders and teams, but the public often saw one face. The more Altman became the symbol of artificial intelligence, the harder it became to separate criticism of the technology, criticism of OpenAI, and criticism of him personally. Fact 76. In the months after ChatGPT became famous, Altman traveled widely to meet governments, developers, students, and critics. During one major tour in 2023, the OpenAI team visited 25 cities across 6 continents. The schedule included meetings with national leaders, regulators, entrepreneurs, educators, and people building local technology businesses. The tour showed a part of Altman's job that had little to do with writing software. He had to listen to fears that changed from place to place. Some countries worried about losing jobs. Others worried that systems trained mainly on English would weaken local languages and culture. Some leaders wanted investment and access. Others wanted rules before the technology became more powerful. Altman also needed international support for a technology built mainly by an American company. If he spoke only about United States interests, global trust would fall. If he promised every country complete control, the company could not operate one system consistently. The trip strengthened his role as a technology diplomat. He was not elected, yet he held private meetings with elected leaders about systems that might affect their citizens. That unusual power is one reason people find him impressive, and one reason others feel uneasy. Fact 77. Altman testified before a United States Senate subcommittee in May of 2023. Technology executives often arrive in Washington after resisting regulation. Altman took a different public position. He said that powerful artificial intelligence systems required government oversight and suggested licensing or testing requirements for the most advanced models. The appearance was calm and unusually friendly compared with many hearings involving large technology companies. Senators from different parties treated him as a serious witness and asked what rules might help. Altman understood that requesting regulation could have several effects. Good rules might reduce real danger. They might also create barriers that only the largest companies could afford to meet. A licensing system can protect the public, but it can also protect established firms from smaller competitors. He later emphasized that rules for frontier systems should not prevent small developers from experimenting with ordinary models. The hearing revealed his political skill. He did not present OpenAI as a company asking to be left alone. He presented it as a responsible participant willing to help design the boundaries. Fact 78. Altman often describes artificial intelligence with 2 messages that appear to pull in opposite directions. The first is optimistic. He expects advanced systems to increase productivity, accelerate science, improve education, and make many useful services cheaper. The second is a warning. He has said that extremely capable systems could cause serious harm if they are misused or lose alignment with human goals. Holding both views allows him to argue for rapid development and strong safety work at the same time. Supporters see this as realism. Critics see a conflict. The company warning about danger is also competing to build the dangerous capability first. Altman answers the tension without fully choosing either side. He argues that the technology is likely to be developed somewhere, so responsible groups should remain at the front and learn through controlled release. That belief is central to his identity. The future should not be stopped, but guided while it moves. The question is whether any private leader can know enough, move carefully enough, and remain accountable enough for that role. He argues that powerful systems may produce extraordinary scientific and economic gains, while also acknowledging misuse, accidents, concentration of power, and loss of control. Critics sometimes hear the optimistic message as marketing and the warning as a request for regulation that may favor large companies. Supporters hear both as a realistic description of a technology that is useful and dangerous. Altman benefits from holding the 2 positions together, But the tension is not imaginary. It is built into the subject itself. Fact 79. Altman became a master of what might be called staged release. OpenAI often introduced systems to limited groups, collected feedback, added restrictions, and expanded access later. The method was meant to reveal problems before the largest possible audience arrived. This approach matches Altman's preference for iteration. A team learns more from real use than from prediction alone. People will try tools in ways developers never imagined. The method also creates criticism. Once a powerful system is released, even to a limited group, copies, techniques, and social effects can spread. A company may call the release an experiment, while users experience it as a finished product. Altman accepts some public exposure as part of safety research. He believes society needs time to adapt gradually rather than receiving a much more powerful system all at once. This idea appears in his phrase, gentle singularity, an enormous transformation that arrives through many ordinary days. It is a comforting image, but it remains a prediction. History does not guarantee that every transition will feel gentle. The method allows real users to discover abilities and failures that a laboratory may miss. It also transfers part of the experiment into society. A staged release is safer than releasing everything at once, but it is not the same as keeping a system inside controlled testing. Altman's approach depends on the belief that learning from public use can improve safety faster than waiting for complete certainty. That belief remains one of the central debates around his leadership. Fact 80. The OpenAI board removed Altman only days after the company's first major developer conference. At the conference, he had stood on stage presenting new products, lower prices, and tools that allowed users to create specialized assistants. The event displayed confidence and control. Then the board announced that he was leaving because it had lost confidence in his communications. The contrast was shocking. One week, he appeared to be one of the strongest chief executives in technology. The next week, he did not control his own position. No single public incident fully explained the decision. Later reviews said the conflict involved a breakdown of trust between Altman and the board, rather than concern about one secret technical discovery. Former board members and later reporting described patterns of communication they believed made oversight difficult. Altman and his supporters argued that the removal was handled badly and without a workable plan. The honest version remains uncomfortable. The board had formal authority and serious concerns. It also underestimated the loyalty Altman had built and the operational consequences of removing him suddenly. Fact 81. The employee response to Altman's firing was one of the clearest demonstrations of his leadership power. Nearly the entire workforce signed a letter threatening to leave. The letter said employees might join a new Microsoft group led by Altman and Greg Brockman unless the board changed course. Employees had several reasons to resist the board. They believed the process lacked transparency. They feared the company might collapse. Their financial interests were tied to OpenAI's success. Many also trusted Altman personally. The reaction does not prove that every employee agreed with every decision he had made. It proves that, during the crisis, most believed the future under him was better than the future under the existing board. A leader can build loyalty through mission, opportunity, personal relationships, and the belief that the leader can protect the organization. Altman had built all four. The board held legal power. The employees held the ability to make the company disappear by leaving. Altman's strength came from connecting their future to his. Fact 82. Microsoft announced that Altman and Brockman could lead a new advanced research group if the return to OpenAI failed. This offer gave Altman an extraordinary safety net. He could lose his title on Friday and be offered major resources by one of the world's largest companies before the situation settled. The offer also changed the negotiation. OpenAI's employees did not have to choose between Altman and unemployment. A possible new home existed for the team. Satya Nadella, Microsoft's chief executive, publicly remained calm while making clear that Microsoft intended to continue working with Altman in some form. This mirrored Altman's own preferred combination of calmness and urgency. The episode showed the value of long-term alliances. The Microsoft relationship had been built over years through investment, computing partnerships, and shared products. During the crisis, it became personal and strategic protection. Altman returned to OpenAI, but the offer proved that his influence was portable. The organization mattered, yet the network around him could potentially build another organization very quickly. Fact 83. When Altman returned, he publicly thanked employees, partners, customers, and friends rather than declaring victory over the old board. He also expressed affection and respect for Ilya Sutskever, one of the co-founders who had supported his removal. Altman said he felt no hostility and hoped they could continue working together. This response protected the company from a simple revenge story. OpenAI still needed researchers, continuity, and a mission larger than one personal conflict. It also matched Altman's belief that long-term relationships can survive short-term damage. Destroying every connection after a disagreement may feel satisfying but reduce future options. Sutskever later left OpenAI and started a separate company. The old partnership did not fully return. Altman's public generosity should not erase the seriousness of the conflict. It shows the style he chose after winning: reduce visible anger, restore the team, and move attention back to the mission. The tone mattered because the return could easily have been framed as personal revenge. Instead, Altman presented the organization as something that had survived a shared shock. That choice helped employees return to normal work and allowed new governance to form without a prolonged public battle inside the company. Gratitude can be sincere and strategic at the same time. In this case, it helped turn a victory for one leader into a story about collective resilience. Fact 84. OpenAI's new board hired the law firm Wilmer Hale to review the events surrounding Altman's removal. The review examined more than 30,000 documents and included dozens of interviews. OpenAI later said the review found that the old board had authority to remove Altman, but that his conduct did not require removal. The company announced governance changes and returned Altman to the board. Because the full investigative material was not made public, outside observers could not independently examine every conclusion. Supporters treated the result as confirmation. Critics argued that important questions remained. Altman later wrote that he wished he had handled some leadership matters differently and believed he had become more thoughtful. This was not a detailed confession. It was an acknowledgement that surviving the crisis did not mean every earlier action had been correct. The event left a permanent mark on his reputation. Any discussion of his ability to lead powerful systems now includes the question of whether people around him can challenge him effectively. Fact 85. After Altman returned to OpenAI, one of the people he relied on most was Brian Chesky, the co-founder of Airbnb. Chesky had known Altman through the Y Combinator network and became one of his strongest defenders during the firing crisis. He spent long hours helping him think, contacting people, and holding together a campaign that moved across employees, investors, Microsoft, the board, lawyers, and the public story. The friendship mattered because the crisis was not only a corporate negotiation. Altman had lost his title suddenly, did not know which accusations would become public, and faced the possibility that the institution he had spent years building might continue without him. Chesky later described watching his friend stare into an abyss and reconsidering what it means for a founder to control a company. That experience helped popularize an argument later called founder mode. The basic idea is that founders sometimes understand the living system of their companies better than professional managers or boards do, and should not surrender their instincts merely because the organization has grown. The argument is attractive after a board makes a disastrous decision. It is more dangerous when used to treat oversight as interference. Founders can possess unique knowledge and still need limits. A company can depend on one person and still suffer because too much depends on that person. Chesky's role shows Altman's network at its most personal. The response was not generated by an abstract institution. It came from friends willing to enter the crisis, defend him, and help transform a firing into a return. Fact 86. Altman co-founded Tools for Humanity with Alex Blania in 2019. The project later became widely associated with WorldCoin, a network designed around a digital identity called World ID and a cryptocurrency. Its most visible device is the Orb, a machine that photographs patterns in a person's iris to help confirm that the user is a unique human. Altman supported the project because a world filled with convincing artificial accounts may need a way to prove that a person is real without revealing the person's full identity. The idea connects directly to his larger concerns. Advanced artificial intelligence could make online impersonation cheap. It could also produce wealth that new digital systems might distribute more broadly. But the method created major trust questions. People were asked to provide biometric data to a private project linked to cryptocurrency. Regulators in several countries examined privacy, consent, and data practices. The project reveals Altman's comfort with bold solutions to future problems. It also reveals why bold solutions can create a new problem before the original one is fully visible. Fact 87. Altman's support for WorldCoin shows that he is interested in identity as much as intelligence. When machines can write, speak, draw, and act like people, the internet may contain more artificial participants than human ones. A website may need to know that one account belongs to one real person without demanding a passport for every action. World ID tries to separate proof of personhood from ordinary identity. In theory, the system can confirm uniqueness while protecting personal details. In practice, trust depends on hardware, software, data handling, local operators, and company promises. A privacy design can be technically advanced and still feel threatening to the person standing in front of a biometric scanner. Altman often believes that technical architecture can create new social options. Critics respond that governance and power cannot be solved by code alone. Both lessons are important. The system must work technically, and people must believe that the institution behind it deserves access. Fact 88. Altman made a major personal investment in Retro Biosciences, a company studying ways to extend healthy human life. Retro works on several biological approaches, including cellular reprogramming, treatments related to blood plasma, and methods intended to repair age-related damage. Altman has described the goal as adding healthy years rather than simply keeping people alive longer while they remain sick. Longevity research fits his larger worldview. He sees aging not only as an unchangeable fact, but as a biological process that may be studied and altered. The field is difficult and filled with exaggerated claims. Laboratory results in cells or animals do not automatically become safe human treatments. Retro's work should be described as research, not as a proven cure for aging. Altman's investment demonstrates his willingness to place money behind a future that may take decades and may fail. Like fusion, longevity offers an enormous benefit if the science works, and a long history of disappointment if it does not. Fact 89. In 2026, Altman became involved in another ambitious research company called Merge Labs in a personal capacity. Merge Labs is working on brain-computer interfaces. Its stated long-term goal is to connect biological and artificial intelligence in ways that increase human ability and control. The founding group includes researchers from neuroscience and bioengineering, as well as technology entrepreneurs. Altman's involvement follows a pattern. He wants the relationship between people and artificial intelligence to move beyond typing on a keyboard or touching a screen. He expects new interfaces to make interaction faster and more natural. Brain-computer technology also raises some of the deepest privacy questions possible. A normal application can collect clicks and messages. A device connected more directly to the nervous system could involve signals related to movement, intention, health, or communication. Merge Labs is at an early stage. The company has not created a proven high-bandwidth interface for ordinary users, and its goals should not be described as completed achievements. What the project reveals is Altman's continuing desire to remove boundaries that most people treat as permanent. The computer moved from a room to a pocket. He is now interested in whether the interface can move closer to the body itself. Fact 90. Altman formed a major partnership with designer Johnny Ive, the former Apple design leader associated with products such as the iPhone. Their work began from a shared belief that the smartphone and laptop may not be the final forms for interacting with artificial intelligence. A conversational system that can see, hear, remember, and take actions may require a different kind of object. OpenAI later brought Ive's I/O team into the company, while Ive and his design firm kept broad creative responsibilities. For Altman, the partnership was not only about making attractive hardware. It was an attempt to shape how advanced artificial intelligence enters daily life. The physical object affects when the system listens, what it sees, how private it feels, and whether it becomes helpful or distracting. Ive brings a type of expertise Altman does not possess. Altman can gather resources and define a direction. Ive has spent decades thinking about materials, form, interfaces, and the emotional experience of an object. The partnership again shows Altman's method. Find a person recognized as exceptional in a missing field, persuade that person that the new project matters, and connect the project to enough capital and talent to become real. Fact 91. Altman met his future husband, Oliver Mulherin, years before they married. Mulherin is an Australian software engineer who studied computer science and worked on technology projects. Reports describe the couple meeting in the middle of the 2010s and building a long relationship largely outside public attention. This privacy is significant because Altman's professional life became increasingly visible. As his name appeared in global news, he and Mulherin did not turn their relationship into a public brand. They divided time among homes in Northern California and Hawaii. Profiles have described a quieter, domestic life, involving cooking, friends, nature, and time away from the center of San Francisco technology culture. Mulherin understands software, which may make parts of Altman's work easier to discuss at home. Yet being married to the leader of OpenAI also means living with security concerns, travel, unpredictable crises, and public controversy. A relationship with a globally visible executive cannot be separated completely from the job. The couple's response has been to share selected milestones while keeping most ordinary life private. Mulherin has remained far less public than Altman. He has a technical background, but the relationship is not presented as a joint commercial brand. That separation gives the marriage a degree of privacy that is unusual for a person under constant international attention. Public information should therefore be handled carefully. The important confirmed point is simple. Altman's adult life includes a long-term partner who became his husband, not merely a series of companies and public alliances. Fact 92. Altman and Mulherin married in January of 2024 in Hawaii. Photographs from the ceremony spread online after guests shared them. The event itself was small compared with the scale of Altman's public life. The timing came only weeks after the OpenAI leadership crisis. Altman had been fired, returned, and become one of the most discussed executives in the world. Then he stepped into a personal commitment that had nothing to do with a board or product release. Marriage did not remove his workload, but it created a clearer public boundary between the chief executive and the person building a family. Altman's earlier adult relationship had been closely tied to his first startup. His marriage to Mulherin came after he had already built independent professional power and learned to protect more of his home life. The ceremony also made him one of the most visible, openly gay leaders in global business. He rarely turns that status into a speech, but the visibility itself has meaning for younger people who may not expect someone with their identity to occupy such a position. Fact 93. Several months after their marriage, Altman and Mulherin signed the Giving Pledge. The pledge is a public commitment by wealthy individuals and couples to give most of their wealth to charitable causes during their lives or through their estates. Their letter emphasized gratitude toward the people whose work and generosity made their own opportunities possible. The pledge did not direct every dollar to one named organization, and it did not immediately transfer the majority of their assets. That distinction matters. A pledge is a promise, not proof that the giving has already occurred. The quality of the future donations will depend on where the money goes, how decisions are made, and whether the programs produce real benefit. The commitment fits Altman's belief that technology can create vast wealth and that the gains should not remain only with founders and investors. It also creates a test. Public statements about benefiting humanity are easy to make. Over a lifetime, the use of personal wealth can show how seriously that principle is taken outside the company. Fact 94. Altman and Moharan became parents to a son in February of 2025. The baby was born prematurely and spent time receiving specialized hospital care. Altman shared the news publicly and expressed gratitude that his son was doing well. The experience placed him in a situation that money and planning could not fully control. A newborn does not follow an executive calendar, and a premature birth creates uncertainty that cannot be solved through a strategy memo. Altman later described the emotional change of becoming a father in unusually strong terms. He said the experience rapidly changed his priorities and the way the world felt to him. This did not cause him to leave OpenAI. Instead, he connected the personal future of his child to the larger future he was helping build. That connection can increase responsibility, but it does not guarantee correct decisions. Parents disagree about risk, education, technology, and the world their children need. The important fact is that artificial intelligence stopped being only a future for abstract humanity. It became part of the future his own son would live inside. Fact 95. Fatherhood changed the way Altman spoke about time. Before becoming a parent, he was known for extreme schedules, constant travel, and a belief that important work required unusual commitment. After his son's birth, he acknowledged that home life had become more central and that certain earlier assumptions about productivity felt less complete. He did not reject ambition. He began describing a different kind of constraint. Time with a young child cannot always be postponed and recovered later. Development happens once, in sequence, whether the parent is present or not. This makes his old phrase about long days and short decades more personal. A difficult night with a baby may feel long. Childhood will still pass quickly. Altman has also discussed using ChatGPT for parenting questions. He presented the tool as a convenient source of explanations and reassurance, while also acknowledging that such systems can be wrong. The example shows how completely his work and home life can overlap. He is building a product used by parents, while becoming one of those parents himself. He later described parenthood as better than he had expected, and rejected the idea that serious work requires sacrificing family. Coming from a leader associated with extreme ambition, that statement carried weight. It did not erase the practical advantage of wealth, help, and schedule control. It did show that his definition of a valuable life had expanded. The future was no longer only a civilization-scale project. It was also the lifetime of one child he knew personally. Fact 96. Profiles after Altman became a father described a domestic side that had rarely appeared in earlier coverage. At a property in California's wine country, he and Moharan spent time with their child, cooked vegetarian meals, and lived among farms and open land, rather than only offices and data centers. This setting matched Altman's long preference for nature as a place to think. It also gave the family more privacy than the center of San Francisco. The image should not be romanticized. A wealthy executive's version of country life comes with resources and security unavailable to most families. Still, it reveals what he chooses when he can leave the stage. He does not appear to seek constant luxury through public display. His expensive interests include cars, aircraft, land, and technology, but his home life is described more through quiet routines than celebrity events. The contrast helps complete the portrait. The person planning enormous computing systems also cares about a cold bedroom, handwritten lists, vegetarian food, and time outdoors. At the Napa farm, interviews could move from artificial intelligence to food, family, animals, weather, and ordinary household choices. The setting did not remove the enormous power surrounding him, but it changed its scale. A person who spends the week discussing global infrastructure still returns to a home where dinner must be cooked and a baby follows no corporate schedule. Those details do not make him ordinary, but they prevent the portrait from becoming entirely abstract. Fact 97. Altman attracts sharply divided judgments because the same behavior can be interpreted in opposite ways. When he changes a structure quickly, supporters see a leader refusing to let bureaucracy block progress. Critics see someone moving the rules until they fit his goal. When he recruits intensely, supporters see commitment to the mission. Critics see pressure and the selective use of information. When allies defend him, supporters see earned loyalty. Critics see a network powerful enough to weaken oversight. These disagreements cannot be solved by choosing the most flattering or most hostile description. Many come from people who worked near him and observed different parts of the same system. Altman himself has said that conflict avoidance may have contributed to misunderstandings earlier in his career. Avoiding a direct disagreement can feel peaceful in the moment, but separate conversations may leave people with incompatible impressions. A leader can believe he is keeping a group together, while others believe he is telling each side what it wants to hear. Later reporting about Looped, Y Combinator, and OpenAI has kept the question of trust alive. Some claims are disputed, some private facts remain unknown, and no public investigation has produced a complete account accepted by every side. The honest portrait, therefore, keeps the contradiction. Altman has inspired extraordinary loyalty and repeated distrust. Neither fact cancels the other. Understanding his power requires holding both at once. Fact 98. Altman's greatest professional ability may be making an enormous project feel like a sequence of solvable problems. He is not the scientist who created the transformer architecture, the engineer who designed a fusion machine, or the biologist running every experiment in a longevity laboratory. His contribution appears between fields. He identifies a direction, recruits experts, finds capital, negotiates partnerships, creates a legal structure, and keeps the project visible long enough to attract more resources. This kind of work is easy to underestimate because it does not produce one famous equation or component. It is also easy to exaggerate because the public face receives credit for the work of thousands. A fair account gives Altman real credit without turning him into a solitary inventor. OpenAI would not exist in its current form without his fundraising, recruiting, political work, and willingness to make large commitments. It would also not exist without researchers, engineers, product teams, safety specialists, operations staff, and partners whose names are far less familiar. Altman's career shows that modern technological power is often organizational. The person who connects money, talent, infrastructure, and public legitimacy can shape science without performing the experiments personally. That power carries a special responsibility. A public organizer must distribute credit, explain uncertainty, and accept oversight. The better Altman becomes at making the impossible look manageable, the more important it becomes to ask who defines the goal and who can stop the plan. Fact 99. The simple version of Altman's life is a story of inevitable ascent. The real version contains several reinventions. His first company survived but disappointed. He moved from founder to investor and advisor. He took control of Y Combinator, expanded it, and later left amid accounts that remained contested. He co-founded OpenAI as a nonprofit, helped transform its financial structure, became the face of its commercial rise, and was removed by its own board. 5 days later, he returned stronger than before. Each reinvention used the same assets: a fast mind, a dense network, confidence under pressure, and an ability to persuade people that the next version could be larger than the last. The pattern also carried the same vulnerabilities. Speed created incomplete communication. Loyalty created camps. Ambition outran simple governance. A mission designed to serve humanity became connected to enormous private capital and infrastructure. Altman's personal life changed during the same period. The young founder who mixed a company with a long relationship became a husband and father. The person who thought about future generations in abstract terms began speaking about the future through one child. That does not resolve the public questions around him. Parenthood does not make a leader correct, and success does not prove trustworthiness. It does make the portrait less mechanical. Altman is still changing while the institutions around him grow. His story is not the execution of one childhood plan. It is a series of attempts to build a larger role after the previous role reached its limit. Fact 100. The final fact is that Sam Altman's story remains open, and the uncertainty is part of the story rather than a missing ending. He is still the chief executive of OpenAI. The organization now combines a controlling foundation with a public benefit company designed to raise enormous amounts of capital. It works with governments, technology companies, energy providers, researchers, and investors across the world. Decisions made around Altman can influence how people work, learn, create, communicate, and understand what a machine can do. At the same time, the person at the center of that system remains recognizable from the earlier facts. He still breaks giant goals into practical steps. He still relies on a small group of trusted people. He still moves toward fields where the possible reward appears much larger than the conventional risk. He still presents urgency in a calm voice. Those qualities helped him rise. They do not tell us where the rise will lead. His supporters believe he is one of the rare leaders capable of coordinating the talent and resources needed for a technological change that no ordinary company could manage. They point to the loyalty of employees, the scale of the research, the products already used around the world, and his willingness to fund energy, economic research, and science beyond the safest investments. His critics look at many of the same events and see concentrated power. They question whether a leader so skilled at persuasion can be governed by boards that depend on his network and fundraising. They worry that promises about future benefit can make present commercial expansion appear morally necessary. They argue that uncertainty is sometimes acknowledged in language, while confidence continues to drive the action. The evidence does not require us to choose a hero or a villain. It requires us to watch the relationship between ambition and accountability. Altman's childhood computer taught him that a machine could be opened, understood, and changed. Poker taught him to act with incomplete information. Looped taught him that effort and money do not guarantee a beloved product. Y Combinator taught him to judge founders in large institutions and build networks that continue operating after a formal meeting ends. Politics taught him that technology cannot remain outside public conflict. His energy investments taught him that software eventually depends on physical systems. OpenAI taught him that a scientific mission, a commercial company, and a global political debate can become almost impossible to separate. The 5-day firing crisis taught another lesson. A title can disappear in one call, while practical authority survives in relationships. It also showed the weakness of any system that cannot explain clearly why it removed its leader, or how that leader should be governed after returning. Marriage and fatherhood added a quieter scale. The future is no longer only a graph, a laboratory, or a civilization-level prediction. It is also a family, a home, a sleeping child, and the ordinary question of what kind of world that child will inherit. That change does not resolve the public questions around Altman. Parenthood does not prove wisdom. Commercial success does not prove honesty. Criticism does not erase achievement. Loyalty does not replace oversight. It does make the portrait less mechanical. Altman is still changing while the institutions around him grow. The young founder who once tried to persuade mobile carriers now negotiates with presidents, billionaires, energy companies, and governments. The scale has changed, but the method remains familiar. Find the bottleneck, gather the people, secure the resources, and increase the size of the plan. Perhaps that is the most accurate way to view him, not as the inventor of every technology associated with his name, and not as a mysterious figure controlling the future alone. He is an organizer of people and belief, unusually capable of turning distant possibilities into immediate projects. The final judgment will depend on more than whether those projects become powerful. It will depend on whether the power remains answerable to the people who must live with it, whether disagreement can survive inside the institutions he leads, and whether the promised benefits become visible outside the circles that funded them. For now, the portrait ends where Altman usually begins, with an unfinished problem, a larger plan, and the conviction that the next step can be taken sooner than most people think.